Why is property investment such a great deal? The main reason why property investment is such a great deal is because of the word leveraging. Now, if I say the word leveraging, what comes to your mind, folks?
Well, faster than normal growth.
Faster than normal growth? Okay. So when I think of leveraging, I always think of, from a building background, so I always think of a building setting. And if I have a whole bunch of frames or something heavy that I want to pick up, that I know that I can't do on my own, all I need to do is find a decent stick of 4x2, and I can put it on a block on the ground, and I can lift up many times what I can do without that stick. And that's because I'm leveraging off that stick. I'm leveraging, my weight goes to the block and actually picks that weight up because of the lever. Now, the same thing happens with property investment, because property investment is the only investment that the bank is going to let you borrow money against your investment. Okay, so what I'm saying there, if I buy shares, and if I want to buy a set of shares, I won't be able to go to the bank and say, look, I'm buying these shares, will you lend me some money so I can buy them? Okay, if I'm buying bonds, the bank's not going to say, sure, we'll lend you some money to buy them. I mean, they might give you a personal loan, but they're going to lever that against your personal stuff. They're not going to lever it against the investment. Property investment is the only investment option that happens. And so the exciting thing about that is you can make money off the bank's money. Now, I love making money off the bank because they charge me so much in different costs, you know, bank fees and all that. Every month I see, I've got a number of accounts, every month I see all of these account fees, and it makes me so mad because I think of that advert that says, it's my bloody money anyway. You know, can you remember that advert, that old guy that was so upset about that? Well, the bank charges me fees all the time. But when I borrow against a property and I buy a property, an investment property, I can get that money back plus a whole lot more, and it really does me good inside here. So, how does this work? Why is it so good? First of all, if I had $40,000 to invest and I decided, what am I going to do with that $40,000? Okay, typically, if I invested that money into, say, something like shares of a good portfolio, I would be pretty happy if I got between 8 and 10%. Okay, that generally, you know, as an average over, say, 10 years, if I got 8 to 10% on my shares, I'd be pretty happy. So what's that going to give me over that period of time? It's going to give me $4,000 per annum, isn't it? All right? In other words, $40,000 over the 10-year period. Now the issue there is, of course, what do I have to do with that $40,000 as I'm getting it paid to me?
Pay the interest.
Pay tax.
No, I'm not borrowing here.
Right.
I've just put the 40. I have to pay tax, don't I? Thank you, the accountant's wife said that. Okay, so I'll probably, let's say I'm earning around about that sort of 60, 70K, so I'm going to be paying around about, let's make it 20%, so I'm paying around about $8,000 in tax. I end up with $32,000. Is that fair? That's fair
profit.
For the average.
Profit
At the end of the day. That's how much I'm going to get. Now, generally, that's what people think of when they're buying shares. Let's see what happens when I invest that $40,000 into a property. Now, I decide I'm going to go to the bank and say, how much will you lend me with that $40,000? As long as my figures, my incomes works out and so forth, they're probably going to lend me $200, or they're going to lend me $160, so that I can go out and buy a $200,000 house. All right? Everyone understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in 10 years' time, what's this $200,000 house going to be worth, all things being equal? If I bought it at the right time in the lower market, and we've experienced a typical rise in that 10-year period, what's that property probably going to be worth?
400.
400,000. Okay. So, after that period, I decide I'm going to sell that house. What do I end up with? 240.
40. Oh.
Okay, because I started with my investment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in effect, my 40,000 has grown to 240,000, or I've had a $200,000 profit over 10 years. Okay, is that all right? Everyone's with me there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the good thing about property investment at the moment is that I don't have to pay a cent in tax. So whereas my 40,000 here goes down to 32, my 200,000 here stays at 200,000.
I thought you had to pay when you sold it.
No, that's called capital gains tax, and we don't have capital gains tax in New Zealand. You see. Now, then the Labour Party are saying that they will bring that in if they come into power. One has to say, are they going to come into power at the moment? It's unlikely in the next 3 years. But even beyond that, let's say that they do come into power. Then all they're saying is they're going to charge us 15%. Whereas this guy here, who was earning just an very ordinary wage, was already up to 20 or 30%, between 20 or 30%. So even at that rate, if I have to eventually pay capital gains tax, that's why I can't understand why people are so upset or so fearful about capital gains tax. This is a perk for investors. You know, the fact that we don't pay tax is a perk. Even if they charge us 15%, we're still a whole lot better off than if we put that money in shares, because we'll be paying 20, 30, I'll be paying 33%. You see? So in this situation at the moment though, I'm paying no tax. So if I split that down to 10 years, I make $20,000 per annum, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 10 years I've made, on an average, $20,000 per annum. On my 40,000, what return is that?
50%.
50%. How does that look compared to my, 32% on 40 is probably something closer to 80, spread over 10 years is around about, as I said, 8 to 10%. How am I looking?
A lot better in property.
A lot better in property, aren't I? Can you see the power of leverage? My 40 grand is the same, but because I'm levering 200,000 from the bank, I'm making money off the bank's 200 grand as well as my 40 grand, and I end up with a much, much better return, despite capital gains tax. Does that sound exciting?
Yes.
Does that sound like you want to get involved in property investment?
Yes.
Amen. All right. Thank you very much.